Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samah Al-Hanawi. I'm an attorney and I am the president of the Egyptian American for Human Rights. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for being here. Unfortunately, in my country, Egypt, we also have a legitimate government who refuse to respect human rights laws, and it happened that we have thousands of Egyptians in prison are arbitrarily detained. Also in Iraq, and it's another neighbor country to Egypt, Mr. Shawki Ahmed Omar, Mr. Shawki Ahmed Omar, like me, he an Arab American. Basically, he came to the United States and he became an American citizen and expected from his own government, his own country, to respect his human rights and to do the best they can to protect him. Instead, he was detained without reason and tortured by the United States soldiers. He was then turned to Iraqi authorities. The United States had lied about his situation and about his treatment. They pledged that he would not be tortured. But later on, we found out that he was tortured by Iraqi authority. Again, I welcome you all, and before we start, we like to hear a couple-minute statement from a respected guest.
Hello, my name is Ramsey Clark. I'm a United States lawyer for more than 60 years now. Spent 8 years in our U.S. Department of Justice, Assistant Attorney General, Deputy, and finally Attorney General back in the 60s. And since then, primarily involved in human rights, which are the foundation for the hope for peace on earth. And we have an extreme case here today that we're deeply concerned about, a U.S. citizen who's been detained arbitrarily in Iraq, and apparently with U.S. Government support of some level. Shawki Ahmed Omar is his name, and we believe he's innocent of any wrongdoing. He's been held for a long time, and it's imperative that his rights be recognized and that he be released and set free. He's been arbitrarily held in Iraq now for more than 10 years, separate from his family and under conditions that are cruel and inhumane. And it's imperative that all that believe in individual human rights stand up for this person who's been denied so much of his adult life in arbitrary, wrongful confinement in Iraq. And that the United States government and all other defenders of individual rights and human freedom demand of Iraq that he be released immediately and unconditionally.
Of course, that was the Dean of Human Rights Lawyers in USA. That was the former Attorney General in USA. Thank you very much for his word, and thank you for his clarification and the obligation that United States government should protect their own citizen. And now I would like to pass the mic to Dr. Curtis Dibbler. He is Mr. Shawki Ahmed attorney, and he is a national human rights lawyer, also a professor of law and human rights defender. And he will actually provide us with some awful information. Sorry to start that way, but he will deliver the case and explain a lot about the case. Thank you, Dr. Dibbler, please.
Thank you, Samah, very much. And I thank you and Ramsey for the support that you've given to this case. The reason we're trying to draw attention of this case to the public, and particularly here in the United States, is that Shawki Ahmed Omar is an American citizen. He's been held for more than a decade in detention, first by the United States and then by the Iraqi government after he was turned over. His case is not unknown in the United States. It went up to the Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court decided that he had the right to make an appeal for habeas corpus, to be brought before a court to determine whether his detention was legal or not. But they determined also that the United States government's representations that he was not being tortured under American custody and that he would not be tortured if turned over to the Iraqi authorities, that those representations were enough for the court to say that although he had the right to make an application for habeas corpus, he could not be granted habeas corpus. And as a consequence, he remains in detention. We now know that those representations are false. Even the United States government officials themselves have admitted that he was tortured under American custody. In part, they've admitted that because when he was picked up in 2004, he was picked up with his wife, Narmeen, who was 4 months pregnant, and she was also tortured by the American authorities or under their auspices. She says they were both American and Iraqi soldiers involved. As a consequence, she has a child that he has never seen that was born about 6 months later and was born with a severe mental handicap. So we've know that the representations made by the American government to the Supreme Court were not true at this point. And he has remained in custody. The United States, because he is an American national, has said that they will try to have him released. They have made representations to me and to generally in the public that they are doing everything they can to protect an American national. You would expect that they would do that, at least after July 2014, because the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention decided at that time that this detention is arbitrary. This person was confronted with an unfair trial. The only thing he has ever been charged with is not a serious offense of any violence. He has been charged only with entering Iraq illegally. And the only reason he was convicted of that is because the American government withheld his passport, and he could not show the stamp that he has on his passport written by the Iraqi authorities that say that he entered Iraq legally. I have a photocopy of that. If I had been asked by the Iraqi court, I could have proved that he entered legally. He was sentenced to 15 years for that. Later, it was lessened to 7 years. He should have been released early, or could have been released early, I should have said, but in September of this year, but he was not. Instead, we believe, through contacts we have in Iraq, and even through not a confirmed sighting, but the suspicions of even the American embassy in Iraq, that he has been transferred to Camp Cropper. That is the camp in which he was already tortured, and which we suspect he is being tortured again. So Shawki has been in custody for 10 years. He has had repeatedly UN bodies say his custody is illegal. They have said in their opinion, or the opinion of the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, number 5, 2014, that he should be immediately released. Probably on the basis of that, the United States has realized that they should respect this person's human rights. As an American citizen, try their best to get him released. Until recently, we had hoped they were doing that. But in a recent meeting that I had with the Director General of the Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Hassan Janabi, he claimed to me, and he's later put that in writing, that the United States government is cooperating with the Iraqi government to detain this person and, in his words, to get information from him, which is equivalent to admitting that they're cooperating in the torture of Mr. Shawki Ahmed Omar. And that is a fairly serious matter. That is one reason why we've now tried to raise the attention of this case in the public domain, and particularly in the United States. because what it indicates is that the United States government not only is unwilling to take action to protect somebody who has never been charged with a serious offense, who is an American national for all they know, and entitled to the protection that any other American national is entitled to, but it also now appears that they may even be working with the Iraqi authorities to continue to detain this person arbitrarily and to torture this person. We hope this is not the case, but we have called on the United States government to provide us evidence that they are working to get him released. They have said that to me orally. They have even sent emails that are somewhat vague. But when we asked for any evidence after this meeting I had with the Iraqi authorities, when we asked them to provide any evidence, a letter, even the date of a meeting that they had, so that we could confront the Iraqi authorities and say to them, look, this is not true. The United States does not agree with his detention. They are trying to get him released. The United States government has refused to provide that evidence. As a consequence, Mr. Shawki Ahmed Omar remains detained, and very possibly, as we heard former Attorney General Ramsey Clark say, very possibly with the cooperation or collaboration of the United States government in a very serious crime against an American citizen. So we are trying to draw to people's attention here, particularly to the press's attention, this fact in the hope that they will function as the American press is intended to function under the American Constitution, to try to ensure that the government is transparent with its people and acts as the Constitution requires in protecting American citizens wherever they might be.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dubler. I still have many questions, but I know Dr. Dubler have some appointments, and he made it all the way across the ocean to be here with us. I want to thank him again very much for his time and for all the hard work toward that case. And finally, I'm asking all the press that we have some folder in your way out. And we have to actually give a final statement to the U.S. government to stand up for their principles, for the international law, for the American law, and to protect their own citizen. And we are, as an American citizen, and we all here, the press, the public has actually to stand for our fellow American. And again, in the end, this is our duty toward every American being tortured overseas. Thank you very much, Dr. Dubler. I really appreciate your time, and we wish that we have some more time because I still have a lot of questions. Thank you again, and see you again soon. Thank you.